So, welcome everyone to this week's Profit for Your Business podcast. Today we have Bill Hall with us, who is what are you, Bill, for Advanced Router Plumbing?
I'm kind of a manager.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. And I know you've been in the plumbing business for a long time.
Yeah, I started out back in 1984 with Kaiser Battistone, and we were primarily septic, but then we did add plumbing to our repertoire around 2000, and in 2014 we sold the business to Wind River Environmental.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Kaiser Battistone is really one of the leading companies here to do septic in Connecticut, Fairfield County, Connecticut, where we are. All right. Well, let's talk about the plumbing business a little bit. What are some of the things consumers have to pay attention to when they're looking for a plumber or a septic service?
Well, they certainly want to make sure that they're licensed and insured. There's the plumbing industry is kind of interesting. It's a lot of small players for the most part, right? I mean, we've got about 10 technicians in our company, so we are considered large, but still not as large as some of the franchises. And but there's a lot of one-man shops out there, and a lot of them are very good. But there are also people who can masquerade themselves as plumbers, but they aren't licensed and they probably aren't insured. And so, check the Better Business Bureau rating, look for Google reviews. Certainly a good company should have some reviews, and that's probably the biggest thing. And talk to your friends and neighbors. See who they use.
Yeah, that is a good thing too. Can you really ask the plumber itself, him or herself, what their background is and if they're licensed and all of that?
Yeah, you certainly ask them that question. Yeah. Absolutely.
Right. So that's a good question to answer or to ask. So what are some of the things that a good plumbing company or a good plumber should offer? What do you offer to your customers?
Well, some of them will be very specific, and as they maybe they only do plumbing. Others are a little more well-rounded, like ourselves. We do plumbing, drain cleaning. We do some heat work. We've got a lot of specialized services that we offer. Pipe lining, high pressure water jetting, camera inspection of the inside of pipes. And that's not something that every plumbing company does. In fact, there's plumbing companies that call us for some of those services. But it's, and with septic, it's, same thing. It's, a lot of them only clean septic tanks or only install septic systems. Some will not do septic inspections for a real estate transaction. We do them all. So.
Great. And that's important to know. Speaking of heating, are you aligned with one of the heating companies, or how does that work?
Well, we do have technicians that are licensed for heat, and so we can do wet heat. We don't do a forced hot air furnace. That is not in our wheelhouse, and we would recommend another company for them when it comes to that. But as far as radiators and hot water baseboard, boilers, we do all of that.
Yeah, good. Where do companies or customers find good plumbers? Where should people be looking if they're looking for a good plumber, other than asking your neighbor and who you?
Right. If 15 years ago, I would have said go to the Yellow Pages. Do they still print those?
What are those?
Yeah. No, it's right now. I mean, everything is online. And I think a great number of people just will Google plumber near me, or they may get a little more specific with the type of problem they're having. And we certainly we do a lot of work with online stuff, and I get all the metrics. I can see what the most popular searches are for advanced router plumbing, or how they came to us, what they were looking for. And like I said, one of the biggest ones is plumber near me.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that when I hear some of the phone calls that come into our office, people will often say, well, where are you located? Well, in this day and age, at least for us, it really doesn't matter. Like I said, we've got 10 technicians. They're all over. We primarily work New Haven, Fairfield, and Westchester counties.
Yeah.
But we'll have a plumber near you at any time. You never know.
Right.
But again, there are other plumbers, I think, that stay very localized. If the smaller guys, they can't be driving all over the place, because when you're driving around, you're not making any money.
Right. Right. Do you have to have a separate license to work in New York State, or or then Connecticut, or the?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. So everything in Connecticut, you're licensed by the state. So my septic license, I can work anywhere in the state. Our plumbers, same thing, they're licensed in the state. When you get over to New York State, it's a little different, because they have county governments over there. And so the counties do the licensing. So we've got guys that are licensed in Westchester County, and we've got a couple of them that go into the couple of counties north of there. So it's just and I'm licensed also as a septic installer in Westchester County.
Okay. Cool. So what people have, what is the biggest emergency that people will call you for? What's the biggest emergency you've had to deal with? I'm sure you get calls like that.
Oh yeah. From a residential standpoint, probably the biggest emergencies are no heat, mainline sewer backup, or there is a pipe that's broken. It may have been from a freeze. We'll start getting those calls soon. After a pipe freezes and you have no water, then it typically, that may crack the pipe, but then once it thaws out, that's when the leak starts. And in some cases, people have no way to turn it off. Most every house has got a primary shutoff that'll shut off the whole house. Not everybody knows where it is. I would encourage people to go find that out. And if you don't, talk to your plumber and have him help you out. One of the things that we do is we'll go out and pretty much no matter what we're out there for to do at a house, we'll go ahead and tag the main valve shutoff and point it out to the homeowner so that they are aware of where it is. Because if they get a leak of some kind in the house, that's the first place to go. Now, they may have other zones that have got shutoffs. You've got them under your sinks and at your toilet and that kind of thing. So you can just shut off the one fixture, but the safest thing is just to shut off the whole house.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can't remember where I put the picture, but I've got one of a garage. There was plumbing in the ceiling of the garage that went to a bathroom above it. And the people forgot to close the garage doors one night, and everything froze up. Then it cracked. And then it was just, it looked like an ice castle in there because the water was spraying around and everything was covered in ice inside that garage. So that was a major mess. And fortunately, with things like that, insurance will help out. Typically, homeowners insurance won't cover the repair that we have to do, but it'll cover the cleanup that's associated with that. So, we've had major emergencies for towns. I can remember a few years back when the town of Westport, they had a break in the force main that runs under the Saugatuck River between a pump station on Riverside Avenue and the waste treatment plant on the east side of the river. And they had to shut down the pump station so that the sewage didn't continue leaking into the river. And so we were one of several companies that were running pump trucks from that lift station, pumping it out of there, and then taking it across the bridge to the waste treatment plant and dumping it and coming back again.
Wow.
So it's just, it's not unlike a customer having a problem at home. It's just on a bigger scale when it becomes a municipality.
Yeah. for sure. And it's good that you had the capacity and well, and along with others
Yeah,
to
yeah,
make that happen.
yeah.
Wow. Speaking of pipes freezing, what should we look out for? What should I look out for during the winter? How do I keep pipes from freezing? How do I know if they're frozen? And how do I
Great,
unfreeze them or call you
great
through?
question. The best prevention is, I guess, primarily is don't let the heat go too low in the house. Often, and I know I'm guilty of this too. When we go away for the weekend, I don't want to keep the house heated to 68 degrees. I'll bring the temperature down. But the lower you bring it, the more chance you have of pipes freezing, especially if they're on an outside wall. If you've got pipes on an outside wall, if you can somehow get air to them. So the typical one is, let's say the kitchen sink. And, it's when you stand at the kitchen sink, you're facing out through a window looking at the backyard. Well, that means those pipes are on an outside wall. Mm-hmm. And so what I recommend doing is, again, if you're leaving the house, is open the cupboard doors. Or at night when it gets real cold. Some of these, if we're getting down to 0 degrees, is open the cupboard doors. That allows the room temperature heat in there. You could go even further, and there's different types of heat tape that you can wrap around the pipes, and plug it in, and that'll keep them warmer. There's just if you got pipes in a crawl space, the same thing. You need to get a heat source in there or insulate those pipes. Make sure the pipes are insulated. There's different types of insulation that we can put on them. You asked, how do you know when you've got a frozen pipe? Well, if you get up in the morning and you go to a sink or a fixture and you open up the cold water and nothing comes out, you've probably got a frozen pipe somewhere. Yeah. So again, the biggest thing is to try to get a heat source on it. I do not recommend using a torch of any kind because then the chance of fire increases. But something like a hairdryer, a blower that you can put on it like that. Again, just get a heat source into the area. You may have a standalone heater that you can plug in front of the spot and heat that area up. And if you can slowly warm it up, you may avoid cracking the pipe. But again, the same thing to be concerned about is once you've got water back to that fixture, is to make sure that you don't have a leak somewhere prior to it.
Yeah.
The pipe could have ruptured.
I have heard that if you leave the water dripping overnight, it'll help it as well.
It does. Of course, there's always a dark side to that. If you're on a septic system, I caution against that because now you're running a lot of water into the septic system.
Yeah.
If you're on a well, depending on how much water you're running. One little trick that I've used is I take a piece of string or a piece of yarn. I'll take the top of the toilet tank off and tie it onto the assembly there, but let a little bit of that string or yarn go down through the flapper valve. And what'll typically happen is that about every 10, 15 minutes, that toilet tank will call for a little more water and it'll turn on and bring water. So if you have a problem with a toilet that might freeze up or the line to it freezing up, that's a good hack for preventing that.
Oh.
But yes, you can. You can just leave the water dripping a little bit out of anything that may be prone to freezing.
All right.
And then we do have equipment where we can come in. It's I just call it pipe thawing equipment, but we can hook on to copper pipes, and using electricity, it will put a current through there and melt the ice out of there. And then we've also, if it's on a drain side, and it's pretty rare when a drain pipe will freeze up. First of all, it obviously would have to be a horizontal pipe, and it's not going to be in the house. It'll be outside the house going out to the septic tank or out to the sewer. And what can occasionally happen is if you get a slight buildup in that pipe, or if there's a belly in the pipe a little bit, and you get the water in that'll sit in there, that can freeze. And then when other wastewater runs over it, it can build up just like an icicle. And eventually getting to the point where that whole thing is clogged with ice. And then the longer it stays that way, the more the wastewater behind the ice clog will start to freeze up. But we can use a high pressure water jet to attack that and get in there and basically just blast the ice away. It'll melt just from the water pressure.
Uh-huh. Wow. Interesting. So is it a good idea to think about a preemptive visit from you to put on heating equipment on your pipes if you've got that problem or have had it before? Or
Yeah, certainly if you've had the problem before, it may be worthwhile for us to, for you to have one of our technicians to come out and take a look at it and see what recommendations they can make, what corrective or preventive measures that we can take to help you out. If you've never had a freeze before, I don't know that I'd be real concerned about it.
all right. What are some of the things that could I do that myself? Could I go to Home Depot and get a pipe heater thing?
Sure.
And what are some of the other things that I can do myself in a house that so it would save a call or save me a little money? Or is that dangerous?
Certainly things like that. Home Depot and Lowe's, other stores like that, they sell products that the foam insulation that you can put around pipes. That's something that most homeowners can do themselves. Probably one of the things I see a lot of homeowners try to do themselves is when they get a slow drain or a clogged drain, they want to try to free it up first. One thing I would caution against is any of these caustic drain cleaners, drain openers that they've got out there, because when you put that into the drain, it not only attacks the blockage, but it attacks the pipe, and it can weaken pipes. One of the questions that we'll ask when we're going out to a house to unclog a drain is, have you used any products like that? And if you have, we may put you off just a little bit, or we may have to take other measures, because when we put our electric snaking equipment into that, we put the cable into that drain pipe, if you've got those products in there, that can actually weaken our snake and cause it to break off. We've had cases where we'll go in and we'll start snaking, and again, it's weakened the pipe so much that the end of the snake goes right through the pipe. So then we've got to replace the pipe. But certainly having a plunger at home is a good thing. And there's different types of plungers. There's smaller ones for doing sinks, and there's larger ones for doing toilets. One of the things that I've got to do at my house all the time is clean the hair out of the shower drain. And I just try to do that on a preventative basis before it starts building up. There's a little tool. It's called I think it's a zipper. They come in different lengths, but it's a piece of plastic, a plastic strip with little barbs on it. And when you push it down the drain and you pull it back up, the barbs will catch the hair and pull it out. It's not a pleasant job to do, but it's not difficult.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
But I think, when it comes to heating issues and, right now, one of the calls we come out on a lot are water heaters that aren't functioning. And it's not necessarily that they're dead, but that's not something that most homeowners would be able to diagnose. So we'll go in and try to make a repair always. But water heaters, typically, they have about a 10 to 12 year lifespan on your typical water heater that's got a tank.
Yeah.
Now, one of the big things that we're doing more and more of today is installing the tankless or on-demand water heaters. Because when you have a 50-gallon water heater, that means you're always trying to heat 50 gallons of water. And when you turn on a fixture that calls for hot water, it'll draw it out of the top of the tank, and then cold water starts coming in right away, and you have to heat it all up again. Whereas with the on-demand water heaters, there is no storage. When the fixture opens up and calls for hot water, the flame inside that unit comes on, and the water comes in through a series of coils in the heat, and it heats that up and sends it out to the fixture. They tend to be a little pricier than the traditional type tank water heaters. So you have a little more of an upfront cost, but they're a lot less expensive to run, and they typically will last longer.
Interesting. Okay. Let's talk about pricing a little bit. How do you know you're getting a fair price from your plumber?
Great question. The plumbing industry historically has been a time and material industry, as are many electricians and et cetera. So what would happen is a plumber would come out and you'd kind of have to rely on how quickly he could get the job done. And because the longer he stays there working, the more he's going to bill you for time. We have moved, and many, many companies have moved in the last 10, 15 years to a flat rate system. So, you'll call up and say, hey, I'm having a problem with my toilet. You may describe it a little more. And so what we'll do is we'll send a technician out there and he'll take a look at that problem you're having. He'll put together, there may be options, all right, but he'll present you with those with a flat rate price. This is what it'll cost for me to repair this or replace this, whatever it might be. And then if you want to go ahead with the work, fine. If not, all right, we'll go away. But that way, there aren't any surprises after he gets started.
That's good. How do you deal with the question of a free estimate versus, so you come out, you do your, and I don't want to do it. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But is that a problem?
Occasionally it is. We usually charge a trip fee of $88, and that covers the cost to get the technician out to your house and take a look at the issue. And then if you want us to go ahead and perform the service, then the $88 gets applied toward that.
I got you.
And so, there are some people that don't want to risk the $88. And, they may be what we call tire kickers. They may be getting several people to come out and they want to try to get the best price.
Yeah, like one of those online things that says, here's your, call this and I'll send you 10 plumbers or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Good. How about the plumbing business itself? What are some of the things that make you happy when you get up in the morning or excited to be a part of this industry?
Well, I like to see all the, I'll say the new things that are coming out. Some of it are in tools that we have available for our technicians to use. Others are processes. Again, one of the big things in the last 10 years have been the moving from copper piping to PEX, which is a flexible, I'll say plastic type pipe. And they've got them for hot and cold. And typically that's less expensive and actually better to use than copper because the PEX, if it freezes, it's not going to split. Mm-hmm. So there's always all kinds of new things. We just installed at a commercial property in Westport a water detection device, and they were having problems with some fixtures that were leaking. And so we put this on, and if the water starts to run either at an odd time, so a time when nobody's in the building, or at a higher volume than it should, then this device will notify whoever you've got it programmed to notify. And in this case, it's the building superintendent and us. And so we're using technology now a lot more. And that's one of the things. Yesterday we were on a job in New Canaan, and there was a problem with a sewer pipe. And so once we got it open inside the crawl space, we were able to put a camera in there and take a look at what was going on in there. And we could see that there was a lot of rotten cast iron where it went through the foundation and in the first 10 feet or so. But then it looked good and clean all the way to the septic tank from there. So it allowed us to, instead of saying, all right, we got to replace this whole pipe, we're just doing the 10 feet that's bad.
Very good. That reminds me or makes me think of one of the things that happened around here at one of our schools. It was moisture and it got mold all over it, and it had to spend, I think they closed the school for a year or two. It might still be closed.
Yeah.
Is that mold an issue with water leaking? And
it certainly can be. I've seen that. We go out, we do a lot of pre-sale septic inspections. and occasionally the plumbing inspection too, but usually the home inspector takes care of inspecting the plumbing, and most are qualified to do that. But as part of my septic inspection, I'll always go inside, especially if it's on a well, just to see what's going on with the, if there's any treatment equipment in the basement and that kind of thing. And I see a lot of instances where, you can see there's been moisture in the basement. You can see the mold, and we're not mold remediation specialists by any means, but when you get a leak, it's important to get it fixed before mold starts to occur.
Yeah.
And so if you see moisture in the basement, it's not always coming from your plumbing. It could be seeping in through the foundation, but it's just as important to get that taken care of.
Good advice. So how do you find new business? How do people don't need plumbers all the time, but you need to have people in your pipeline.
Right. Yeah, we've got a number of sources for finding new business. We love the repeat business. So once we've serviced somebody and they're pleased with our service, they'll come back. Again, a lot of it is word of mouth referrals. And I know a lot of people, we got a lot of people now moving to town, and they don't know who their service providers are. So they rely a lot on the realtor because they developed a relationship there. And a lot of the realtors have got service providers that they'll supply them. Also, the home inspector is another good source. But we do a lot of work with social media and some of the localized groups, the moms groups, and there's Alignable and Next Door Neighbor, and there's all kinds of things out there. So I try to work those somewhat. We do a lot of SEO, SEM work. And because again, a lot of people will go online, especially, today, it's right here at the end of your hand. You got your phone, right, and you can just punch it right in, and you'll have several options right there. But we still do Welcome Wagon. That's been a great source again, right, for new movers. I'll get out next week. Myself and one of my master plumbers, we're doing a 1-hour program for the Connecticut Association of Home Inspectors. They have monthly meetings, and they always want to have a speaker. And so I'll talk primarily septic. My master plumber will talk plumbing, and perhaps out of that group, we'll get a couple of inspectors that'll refer us for inspections.
Yeah, good. Let's go back just one thing.
Wait. I've got one more though, Jim. I shouldn't leave out.
Yes.
It's called Business Network International. So Jim and I are both members of the Westport BNI, yep, and we've got about 50 members from 50 different non-competing businesses. And we do a lot of referring within there, not just amongst ourselves, but amongst our contacts. And I'm a 10-year member, and we have gotten a ton of business out of that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm of course BNI too, and it's a good organization. So people listening, think about that. It's worldwide, and there's a BNI chapter near you who will be of help. And I go back one question: what is SEO and what is SEM?
Search engine optimization and search engine marketing. So it's a matter of getting your keywords to be searchable. And so, and then also having, the SEM is pay-per-click, so that if somebody clicks on that, then it will cost that business money. And so you want to make sure that if they're going to click on it, that you've got a good website because it'll bring you to your website or a particular page on the website. You want to make sure that's very user friendly and that you can keep them there so that they will then, make that call or email and set up a service call.
Which makes me think of what are some of the things that a business needs, plumbing or otherwise. You need to have you mentioned a website, you mentioned SEO. what other things? Good branding, or what are those things? How important are those things too?
Yeah, absolutely. No, branding's very important. And that's, sometimes you need to take a look at your brand because it may be a little stale. Definitely take a look at your website. I mean, I think back to our first website that we had in like 1989. And if you looked at that today, there was no functionality to it. I think it was just a single page, in fact.
Yeah.
But, over the years, we've continued, and we do that at Advanced Router Plumbing. I mean, we just, a couple of years ago, went with Hearst Media to handle all our SEO, SEM, and they redid the website and freshened it up and put more functionality to it. And it continues to evolve. I meet with them by Zoom monthly, and they recommend certain tweaks, or then if we're doing something different or have a promotion, and they'll get that in there to keep the website fresh. And
yeah, that's an excellent idea, to have somebody who is an expert help you, unless you're a website expert. You need to have that. Right.
I had a friend of mine who his business is doing websites, but he did his own website, but he made sure he had another website company take a look at it because he said, like, I'm too close to it.
Right. You need a good consultant.
Right. There you go.
give new eyes to your processes and things. What about being a part of a franchise? Is that something, you mentioned that earlier, is that something that a plumbing company or should think about, or what are some of the pluses and minuses of working with a franchise?
Well, the pluses are that you've got, assuming it's an established franchise, they've got history, they've got a lot of materials and processes that are proven. And if you've got the money, you just buy into it and instantly you're in business. And, and it may be a very recognizable name too. So, you just need to have employees. And so you need to get that kind of in place first. But, that's the pluses of a franchise. And I've talked with a lot of people who, they've been, I'll say, in corporate in New York, and now they're moving out to the suburbs and they're looking to start chapter 2 of their business life. They have bought into franchises because, they had the financial wherewithal to do it. And, it gets them into business instantly. The downside is you're paying a franchise. You have to buy your way in. And sometimes that can be very pricey. And then you've got monthly fees. So you definitely want to look at those and be careful. I think just in general, from having been in business and around business for 35 years plus, I think if you've established your own business and it's going well, I don't think you need the franchise.
Yeah.
There's other people like yourself, a business consultant, that can take it and help tweak it and bring it up to where you want it to be, or, because for a business owner, it's obviously they want to be profitable, but in some cases they need more time for themselves so that they can also enjoy some family life or whatever it might be. I'm sure you see that, Jim.
We run into that a lot. Before business owners, get overwhelmed so easily. You're pulled in every direction and need somebody to come in and say, okay, here's what you should be doing. Here's what you can stop doing. Here's how to do it, and make the company run better. Yeah, that's important. So anything else we ought to talk about? Have I missed anything, or?
Well, we've covered a number of things here. No, I think if people have got any questions, certainly specific to plumbing or septic, you can always reach out to me. And I'm always willing to talk with people. I mean, it's I love problem solving, and can't always solve them, but I can always try. Or if I get to a certain point, I'll say I don't have the answer for you, but let's go to somebody else who might be a better resource.
Yeah. So, good. So how do I reach you?
My I guess the easiest way is through Advanced Router Plumbing. And our phone number in Connecticut is 203-571-7828. But feel free to call me on my cell, 203-515-0606. And my email is pretty easy. It's billhall747@gmail.com.
All right. We'll put that in our description too, so people can reach you.
Great.
All right. Hey, this has been fun, and I learned a lot too about plumbing and business, and I appreciate that. I hope our audience will feel the same way. But Bill, thank you so much for this.
All right. Thank you for having me, Jim.
All right. Peace and happy holidays and blessings of life. Oh, one more thing. What is the meaning of life?
I'm going to refer that over.
Okay. That's a fair comment. All right, Bill. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.